Everyone, it's me, Claire, back again, and today I was going to upload some videos I had already made to my YouTube channel, when I thought actually it was probably about time I made this video, which I've had going around in my head for a few months now, and because more and more's been coming up on Facebook about it, I thought now would be an appropriate time. Now this video is looking at, should just about anyone be able to open a cloth pad business, and what responsibilities do or should come with that, and also what impact does that have on the cloth pad community as a whole. Now I will start by saying this is in no way a newbie bashing video. I am definitely not even close to being against new shops opening, new sellers coming, because I think that's great for the cloth pad community. But there's a certain type of seller that is emerging more and more in the cloth pad community that, in my personal opinion, I feel could do more damage than good. Now, a little bit where I'm coming from on this, I came to cloth pads very start of last year. I'll do a separate video on the whole story of that. But basically I have numerous menstrual fertility related issues, and these were worsened each month by disposable pads until I found cloth pads. And now, instead of wearing 6 disposable pads layered between 2 pairs of knickers, I can wear one cloth pad. So it's something I've become more and more passionate about, and I started making my own very early on, as I found it hard to find pads suitable for my flow, and I just absolutely loved it. I loved talking to other women about it. I went to women's groups and talked to them, family and friends, and it became, you know, a real passion for me. And I decided actually I would like to sell, not in any mass scale or to make masses of money. I have numerous health problems, not just menstrually related, and I already run a very small hobbyish type business, if you like, that I've been running for 8 years from home anyway. So this would be something that really I'm passionate about and want to add in to the pad community and help other ladies like myself. So I very early on spoke to a couple of makers who I'm now very good friends with about their process of how they got into it and what they went about doing, and then I adjusted it to how I wanted to start. And for me personally, I started off with the research. Now let's talk a moment about this, because some of these new sellers that are coming into the cloth pad market are women who have joined a sewing group, read the files on how to sew a cloth pad, used a free pattern, and read the files on absorbency. They've then made themselves a suitable starter set or stash and decided it seems, from the outside anyway, that it's an easy way to make some extra money, to sew up some cloth pads and sell them, because let's face it, these groups are filled with thousands of women who all make their own pads but also love buying pads. There's a great collectible aspect to cloth pads for some women, so it seems an open market. And with this, there's an influx of sellers who have very poor stitching and market everything as seconds, thirds, fourths, with the excuse or new seller, are using the cheapest possible materials for their pads and are still, you know, charging not the same as the established sellers, but just taking maybe £2 off and selling their pads. Now you might think to yourself, well, what's the problem with that? If someone's seeing a picture and the sewing's not good, or, you know, it's the buyer's responsibility to look into it, and the buyer definitely has a responsibility to look into the pad maker, what's in the pad, etc. But at the same time, it is a seller's responsibility to sell a fully functioning, usable product that is of a good quality, that they have researched preferably, and not just taken other people's comments and ideas and their feelings about it and taken that and used it as their own. Now, my process, and I'm not even selling yet, currently I'm not even sewing thanks to my back, but my process has been I researched extensively core materials. I experimented with so many different cores, different core combinations, what I thought would work, how to put those cores together. I then looked into toppers and what backers I would use. I practiced and practiced my sewing, as I was not a natural sewer when I first came to sewing. I've had to really teach myself and spend hours at the machine getting myself to something that I can be proud of. And I also have 15 ladies that have been testing out various versions of my pads since way before Christmas. Some are friends, some are from a ladies group that I went and spoke about some menstrual issues at. And that has been my process. And from speaking to other sellers along the way, they've had a similar process of really working on their cores and pattern as well. Work on your pattern. Admittedly, there are only so many patterns out there. Sometimes people are like, oh, people are copying my pattern. There's only so many rounded edged pads and shapes of tab wings you can get, but you can make and should make your own pattern. So there's some examples here. For example, we've got a pointed wing here, a slightly tabbed wing, and a large tab wing. Or you can come up with something completely unique, like this kitty cat cloth, which is her own pattern. She only sells this pattern and others she's made of cats, and that's her unique selling point. So you've got to really research and try these things out. If you have a light period, how can you possibly, other than just going to a files section and copying what that says, how can you possibly test out your heavies, supers and postpartums if you don't send them to people to test out but just start selling? Fleece backing. You can't just go out and buy some fleece, sew with it, and then send it out. You've got to test and check it's water resistant, as that is your responsibility as a seller. So there is responsibility there, I feel, and certain steps that should be taken before you decide to just go open an Etsy shop or a Facebook page. Then you have the aspect of really looking at how you're affecting the cloth pad community as a whole. Now, if you've taken those steps, which these sellers here will have, I mean, we've got some, we've got kitty cat cloth, we've got Ngozi sews, I've got like a whole array. And these sellers have all gone through their own version of a process. And when people buy their pads, they buy them, they try them, they're like, this is great. They'll recommend it to their friends. The seller gets a good reputation, more women get to hear about it. It's about spreading the word and helping women understand there are these natural options for their menstrual health care, cloth pads, cups, etc. The dangers of disposable items, and generally making menstruation a topic that can be talked about every day, something that's not shameful and not disgusting. Now, if you are someone who just decides to come to the cloth pad market to make some easy money, have sewn your own stash, and then want to start selling without this research, and a new person who's never tried cloth before comes to you because your pads are several pounds cheaper than some of these other brands that have really worked on their patterns and use more expensive materials, Then they get your product home and it's unneatly stitched. The core doesn't hold up. The fleece isn't water resistant on the back. Then that person may choose not to try cloth again. When they speak to their friends and say, oh, you know, I tried that cloth pads, but they didn't work, they leaked, or after several washes the stitching came undone, or this happened, or that happened, then that's damaging to what, at its core, I feel the cloth pad community is trying to achieve, and that is adding to women's health in a positive way and a natural way. So there is responsibility that comes with selling. It's not like going to a wholesaler and buying a ton of shampoos and conditioners, going home and starting up an eBay or Etsy store. Well, not Etsy because it would have to be homemade, but setting up an eBay store selling shampoo and conditioner where it has really no great impact on you whatsoever. You bought a wholesale item, you're selling that on, there we go. Here, you are making this item, you need to have taken pride in that item, and it does have a rippling effect through the community. One of my friends purchased some custom pads from a new maker, and partially her fault as much as it is the maker's, because you need to research when you purchase from someone. Her pads turned up and they were, I mean, honestly, if you'd have seen the stitching on these pads and the core, because she cut one open because she was worried after that, and it was literally just bath towels. And this is a seller on Etsy. I am not going to name and shame. I have no interest in getting involved in that kind of politics whatsoever. But this is a Etsy seller who's brand new to the cloth market and was seen in one of the Facebook groups saying she needed extra money, so was going to sell cloth pads. Now, that's becoming more and more common, and I think that's something that, unfortunately, because there isn't any way of moderating the sale of cloth pads, can't be stamped out, but people should be aware of it. If you are a buyer looking to buy, don't be put off new makers. Please don't, because there are so many great new makers and everyone starts somewhere. Even the most established pad maker, I mean, if you want to look, for instance, some brands that are thrown around a lot, Novel Red and Yurtcraft, etc., they all were beginners and newbies to the cloth pad market once. They didn't just wake up one day and have the reputation they have today. So don't be put off, but do your research. Read their reviews, check out lots of pictures, as many as you can, on their Facebook, on their shop of their products. Have a look at the stitching, message them, ask about their core materials. If they're not willing to share that information, if they seem uncertain themselves, then these are all warning signs. Don't go with that seller, because the majority of new sellers really have done their research and they'll be happy to tell you about that. But do be aware, there are those that see it as an easy option to make some funds. So I just really wanted to put these thoughts out there, as it's something I've been thinking about a lot, and I thought I would vocalise that. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and that's it from me.